My name is Latonia Wynn, 33 years old. The chandeliers of Meridian Estates scattered rainbows across the marble floors as I stepped into the grand ballroom. Each prism of light shimmered like it had been waiting for this moment to expose everything that was about to unfold. My sister Victoria followed 3 steps behind, her Louboutins clicking with that deliberate rhythm she used when she wanted to remind everyone she belonged in expensive rooms. Mom trailed beside her, her expression already pinched, scanning the ceiling, the drapes, the silver wall sconces as if she were cataloging reasons to disapprove. "This is nice," I murmured, running my hand along the polished mahogany banister overlooking the garden terrace. Victoria laughed, the sound brittle and sharp. "Nice? Latonia, this place costs $40,000 just for the venue rental. You work at that little nonprofit downtown. Let's be realistic about your budget." "I'm just looking," I replied quietly. Christine, the wedding planner, appeared with a bright smile and a leather portfolio pressed to her chest. "Miss Wynn, so wonderful to see you again. I have prepared the premium package details you requested, the terrace ceremony, the vintage wine collection for cocktail hour, and of course, exclusive access to the private bridal suite for the entire weekend." Mom's brows shot up. "Weekend? Latonia, honey, this is completely out of your league. You make what, $35,000 a year? This venue alone probably costs more than your salary." "You're probably right," I said softly. Victoria began circling the ballroom like a shark that had scented blood. "You know what? This is perfect for my engagement party. Derek and I have been looking for something impressive to announce our wedding." She turned to Christine. "Is this available 3 months from now, October 15th? Christine hesitated. "Well, I'd need to check with—" "We can afford it," Victoria interrupted, pulling out her phone. "Put down a deposit. 50,000. Is that enough to secure it?" "Victoria," Mom said sharply, though her voice carried no conviction. "That's your sister's appointment." "Please, Mom. We both know Latonia is just window shopping. She does this all the time, pretending she can afford things to make herself feel better about her sad little life. Remember when she test drove that Tesla, or when she toured penthouses?" I felt the familiar tightness in my chest, but kept my expression neutral. "It's fine," I said. "If Victoria wants the venue, she can have it." Christine shifted uneasily. "Perhaps we should discuss this separately. Miss Wynn, you'd mentioned wanting the December date for your own event." Victoria snorted. "December? She doesn't even have a boyfriend. She's literally planning a wedding for an imaginary relationship. This is worse than I thought." Mom touched Victoria's arm, but didn't stop her. "Victoria has a point, dear. Maybe you should focus on finding someone before you start booking venues you can't afford." I smiled faintly. "I understand." Christine's phone buzzed. "Excuse me for a moment," she said, stepping toward the French doors. Victoria pulled out her phone again, snapping photos of the ballroom. "Derek is going to die when he sees this. The marble floors, the chandeliers, it's all perfect." "When's he proposing?" Mom asked, her voice uncharacteristically warm. "Next month in Paris," Victoria said, "at Le Jules Verne, the restaurant in the Eiffel Tower. He already had the ring custom designed. 3 carats, flawless diamond, platinum setting." She flashed a look at me. "Some of us don't have to pretend about our lives." I turned to the window, staring out at the gardens. 12 acres of manicured hedges and glassy reflecting pools shimmered under the sun. I'd spent months restoring this estate 4 years ago, when the property market was at its lowest. Every fountain, every rosebush bore my fingerprint. "Earth to Latonia," Victoria said. "What do you even do at that nonprofit? You're like a receptionist or something?" "I work in acquisitions," I answered evenly. "That's a fancy word for filing papers," she shot back. "Mom, she works at a nonprofit. They barely make money. She's probably answering phones and pretending it's important." Mom sighed. "Latonia, there's no shame in being realistic about your situation. Victoria worked hard to become a senior associate at a law firm, engaged to a successful man. You could learn something from her." "You're right," I said, my voice calm. They didn't know that the nonprofit they mocked, the Westmore Foundation, was an organization I founded after selling my software company 6 years ago. I'd sold it for $840 million when I was 27. The foundation now managed $200 million in assets, but I'd learned my lesson. The less my family knew, the more peace I had. After all, Thanksgiving had taught me what honesty cost. "Babe, you have to see this place," Victoria was saying into her phone. "Marble everything, crystal chandeliers, the works. I'm putting down a deposit now. Yes, 50,000. I know, but it's worth it for the impression we'll make." Christine returned, her expression tight. Victoria, I need to speak with you about the deposit. What, 50 isn't enough? Fine, make it 75. I want this place locked down. It's not about the amount, Christine said carefully. There's been a complication with your booking. Complication? Victoria frowned. I'm offering you 75,000 right now. What kind of complication? Christine glanced at me, then back to her. I've just been informed by the property owner that your deposit cannot be accepted. The room fell silent except for the ticking of the antique clock on the mantel. Excuse me? Victoria said, voice low and dangerous. Cannot be accepted? Do you know who my fiancé is? Derek Morrison manages over $2 billion in assets. I understand, Christine replied, her tone steady, but the owner has specifically requested that your booking not proceed. Get your manager, Victoria snapped. Better yet, get the owner on the phone. Are you seriously turning away $75,000? Mom stepped forward, her lawyer tone sharpening. There must be some mistake. My daughter is offering more than your deposit requirement. On what grounds are you refusing? Christine hesitated. Mrs. Hartwell, I don't have all the details. I just received a call from the management company stating the booking cannot proceed. This is discrimination, Victoria said. We'll sue. Mom, this is literally your specialty. They can't refuse service without cause. She's right, Mom said. Christine, you need to provide a legitimate reason for this refusal, or we'll be filing a complaint with the licensing board. I stood quietly by the window, watching a gardener prune the roses. I didn't say a word. Victoria whirled on me. This is your fault somehow, isn't it? Did you call them? Did you sabotage my booking because you're jealous? I haven't made any calls, I said truthfully. Then what? Victoria's phone rang. She answered, frowning. Hello? Yes, this is Victoria Hartwell. What? No. There must be some mistake. I'm at the venue right now trying to book it. What do you mean canceled? Her face shifted from confusion to shock, then bright red fury. My spa day? At Azure? But I booked that months ago. You're refunding me? What about the owner? What? Christine's phone buzzed again. She stepped aside, her voice trembling. Mom's phone pinged too. She frowned. That's odd. The boutique where I ordered your birthday gift, Victoria. They're saying the order's been canceled. What is happening? Victoria demanded. Someone call Azure Spa right now. I've been going there for 3 years. Christine turned back, her expression drained of color. Victoria, Mrs. Hartwell, I need to ask you both to gather your belongings. Mom stiffened. Excuse me? You're being asked to leave the property, Christine said quietly. The owner has made that request directly. Victoria's laugh cracked. Leave? We're potential clients. I'm trying to give you money. The owner's instructions were explicit, Christine said, clasping her tablet tighter. Security has been notified. And right on cue, the air in the ballroom shifted, heavier, colder. A man in a dark suit appeared at the doorway, his expression impassive, phone still in hand. He gave a small nod to Christine. The antique clock ticked again. The sunlight refracted off the chandeliers, scattering across the marble floor like shards of truth too sharp to step on. No one spoke, because deep down everyone could sense it. This wasn't about a misunderstanding. It was about power finally revealing where it had always belonged. Christine's fingers trembled slightly as she held the tablet. The ballroom felt suddenly smaller, the air thick enough to slice. There's another update, she said. Victoria folded her arms. You'd better explain what's going on before my fiancé's legal team gets involved. Christine drew in a slow breath. Miss Hartwell, I've just been informed that the owner of Meridian Estate has declined your deposit, and additionally, that your access to several affiliated properties has been revoked. What does that even mean? Victoria snapped. I have memberships and appointments all over the city. Christine's eyes flickered to me for half a second, just enough for the truth to hum like static in the air. Then she turned back to Victoria. Azure Spa, Rothmore Boutique, Sunrise Fitness, all owned by the same holding company that manages this estate. Victoria froze. And they've terminated your accounts. The silence cracked like ice. Mom blinked. This has to be some clerical error. It isn't, I said quietly, finally turning from the window. It's protocol. Christine swallowed. Miss Wynn, Latonia, her voice faltered. Recognition dawned. Oh my God. Victoria frowned. What are you talking about? Christine looked between us, her professional composure crumbling. Miss Wynn is the property owner. Meridian Estate belongs to her. So do Azure Spa, Rothmore Boutique, Sunrise Fitness, and several other affiliated venues across the city. Mom's jaw dropped. That's impossible. She works for a nonprofit. The Westmore Foundation, Christine said softly, which she founded. Victoria stared at me, her face draining of color. You're joking. I'm not, I said. You've been shopping, relaxing, and celebrating in places I own for years. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. You let me mock you. You let us think you were poor, I finished for her. Yes. Christine's phone buzzed again. I'm sorry, she murmured, glancing down. It looks like the system is processing all active accounts under your names, Victoria and Patricia Hartwell. Deposits refunded. Services terminated. Mom pressed a hand to her chest. Latonia, this is insane. Why would you do this to your own family? I took a slow breath. Because I already tried honesty. Remember Thanksgiving 6 years ago? I told you about the company sale. You said I was bragging. You told me to be more like Victoria. You were flaunting your luck, Victoria hissed. Real success takes work. I worked. You just didn't want to see it. Her laugh cracked under the weight of fear. You're punishing us. This is vindictive. No, I said softly. It's boundaries. Behind her, the man in the dark suit stepped forward. Michael, head of estate security. Miss Wynn, he said evenly, would you like me to escort them out? Christine's tablet pinged again. Oh dear, she whispered. Azure Spa, Rothmore Boutique, the Riverside Country Club, all confirming bans under the standing directive. The system is flagging 2 names only, Victoria and Patricia Hartwell. Victoria's voice rose to a shrill pitch. You can't do this. You can't just erase us from your little empire. Mom's hand shook as she tried to silence her ringing phone. Latonia, please. Whatever's happening, we can fix this. It's already fixed, I said. For 6 years, I made myself smaller so you could feel taller. I'm done. Victoria took a step toward me, desperation eclipsing her pride. Derek's firm handles millions for people like you. If this gets out, it'll ruin him. Then maybe he should have chosen someone who doesn't measure her worth in other people's humiliation. Christine looked at me with quiet awe. Miss Wynn, the system's requesting authorization for portfolio-wide enforcement. I nodded. Approve it. She tapped the screen. The sound was final, like a door sealing shut. Victoria's phone began to vibrate nonstop, notifications flooding in. What now? She muttered, staring at the screen. My apartment, my lease renewal. What do you mean terminated? That would be Elmwood Towers, I said. I own the building. You have 60 days. 60 days? Her voice broke. That's not enough time. Then find a place outside my portfolio, I replied. There are plenty of options. Mom's face went ashen. Latonia, this is cruel. What's cruel, I said evenly, is years of mockery from people who called themselves my family. What's cruel is being told I should be more like the daughter you preferred. Christine's tablet pinged again. She hesitated, then spoke. Miss Wynn, another message, this time from the Pinnacle Restaurant Group. They're asking if the ban extends to their establishments. It does, I said simply. All 12. Victoria stumbled backward, shaking her head. You're destroying our lives over a few mean comments. I'm not destroying anything. I'm just refusing to fund people who despise me. Michael took a step closer. Miss Wynn, security is ready. Thank you, Michael. He gestured toward the exit. Miss Hartwell. Mrs. Hartwell. This way, please. Mom's voice wavered. Latonia, honey. Mom, I said, my tone steady. You raised me to stand on my own 2 feet. I'm just doing that now. They didn't move. Victoria's phone rang again. She answered, pale. Derek? Yes, I'm at Meridian. What? They terminated your country club access? Wait, what do you mean Latonia owns the property? No, she can't. She wouldn't. But she knew I would. Christine's tablet lit up with one final cascade of alerts. She looked up, stunned. Every business in the Westmore portfolio has processed the bans. Gyms, spas, boutiques, restaurants, apartments, everything. Michael gave a curt nod. Confirmed. Mom's breath came in shallow bursts. Latonia, I don't even recognize you. You never tried to, I said quietly. The chandeliers glimmered above us like 1,000 unblinking eyes. Christine stood frozen, professionalism warring with disbelief. Victoria was shaking now, her phone still buzzing in her hand. Mom looked years older, her authority dissolving. I turned toward Christine. Please ensure all deposits are refunded immediately. I don't want them thinking this is about money. Of course, Miss Wynn, she said softly. Victoria looked at me one last time, her voice barely a whisper. You'll regret this. I already did, I replied. Michael gestured again, and this time they followed. Their heels clicked across the marble in a rhythm that sounded a lot like retreat. When the door finally shut behind them, the silence was thunderous. Christine exhaled shakily. Miss Wynn, if I had realized earlier, You treated me with respect, I said. That's all that matters. Her eyes softened. It's an honor to work with you. I nodded once. Thank you. She looked down at her tablet. A new alert flashed. A brief flicker, different from the rest. She frowned. That's odd. What is it? It's an access log. Someone outside our system just pulled the Meridian Estate ownership records. Anonymous IP, likely media related. I paused, letting the information settle. Noted, I said. The ballroom felt strangely quiet now, the hum of victory muted by a faint chill. Power was supposed to feel like control, but it mostly felt like exposure. I turned back to the window. The gardens gleamed under the afternoon sun, pristine, ordered, untouched. But somewhere beneath all that symmetry, roots were shifting. Someone had just discovered who I really was. And that meant this story was no longer confined to the walls of my family. It had just become public. By the time I reached my car, the world outside Meridian Estate had shifted from sunlight to a thin dusk glow. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Call after call, text after text, unknown numbers, Derek's name flashing twice, then Mom's, then Victoria's law firm. I turned the screen face down on the passenger seat and started the engine. The city unfurled before me in mirrored glass and steel. Every traffic light reflected on my windshield like silent applause. Yet beneath that surface calm, I felt the first quiet tremor of what I'd done. At home, the real home, not the apartment my family believed I rented, but the penthouse I'd bought outright 3 years ago, I stepped out of my heels and let the silence swallow me. The view from the floor-to-ceiling windows was a sea of lights. Somewhere below, my family's world was already unraveling. My reflection stared back from the glass, calm, unflinching, but older than 33 should look. I filled the kettle, waiting for the hiss of steam to break the stillness. When the phone rang again, I almost ignored it. But then I saw the name. Grandma. Latonia, dear, she said, her voice soft but edged with mischief. I just got the most interesting call from your mother. I smiled faintly. I imagine you did. She seems to think you own half the city. Not half, I said, settling onto the couch. About 12% of the downtown commercial sector. Grandma laughed, a deep, delighted sound. And here I thought you were doing well with that little software company you sold. Honey, why didn't you tell me? I did, I reminded her gently. 6 years ago, at Thanksgiving. She made a thoughtful hum. Ah, yes, that Thanksgiving. The one where Victoria announced her promotion and your mother toasted her while pretending not to hear you mention a merger. I remember the pie was still frozen in the middle, I said. Grandma sighed. You know, dear, I thought about that night for years. I should have said something. I wouldn't have changed anything, I said. I learned that silence buys peace. Peace? She echoed. Or distance? I didn't answer. The kettle clicked off. I poured hot water over a sachet of chamomile and watched the steam rise like the ghosts of every conversation I never had. You know, Grandma continued, your mother said you're destroying Victoria's life. Care to give me your side? I gave her the short version. The venue. The cancellations. The truth revealed like pulling back a curtain that had been closed for too long. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then she said softly, I'm not surprised. Victoria's been jealous of you since you were children. Your mother handled it by shrinking you instead of helping her grow. It's not your fault, Grandma. Maybe not, but I'm sorry you ever felt you had to hide. Something warm pressed behind my eyes. Thank you. For what it's worth, she said, voice trembling with pride. I'm proud of you, not for the money, but for handling this with grace. You didn't yell. You didn't gloat. You just stood up straight. I let out a shaky laugh. Standing up straight feels a lot like falling sometimes. That's how you know it matters, she said. Now, about this foundation gala in December. Am I invited? You're the guest of honor if you want to be. Excellent. I'll need a new dress. Preferably from somewhere Victoria doesn't shop. I laughed, really laughed this time, the sound startling in my quiet kitchen. After we hung up, I lingered by the window. Below, the streets gleamed under rain-washed light. My phone buzzed again. Text from Victoria. Please, I'm sorry, can we talk? Another from Derek. We need to discuss Victoria. This is getting out of control. I stared at the screen, then set the phone face down again. On the counter, my laptop blinked with incoming reports from my property management team. The messages scrolled across the screen with mechanical precision. System audit complete. All V. Hartwell and P. Hartwell accounts terminated. Deposits refunded. Legal team monitoring for disputes. Efficient, impersonal. Exactly what I'd designed it to be. Still, A part of me hesitated. I opened an old draft buried in my files, a private note written years ago, titled Standing Boundaries. Inside were 3 lines I'd typed after the last family argument. No ban without refund, no retaliation without cause, no silence without peace. I read them twice, then closed the document. My system had followed every rule. The problem was never justice, it was grief. I thought of that Thanksgiving again, of Victoria boasting about her bonus while Mom filled my wine glass and said, "Don't talk about money, dear. It makes people uncomfortable." Of how I'd smiled and swallowed it down like penance. Maybe tonight wasn't about revenge. Maybe it was about finally exhaling. A notification pinged. My general counsel had sent a brief message. FYI, anonymous inquiry requesting copies of your standing ban policy across all Westmore holdings. Possible media probe. I stared at it, heart steady but cold. It was starting. The world outside my family was about to notice. I closed the laptop and carried my tea to the window. The city stretched beneath me. 12% mine, 88% waiting to judge. For years, I'd hidden behind modest clothes, secondhand handbags, quiet humility. Tonight, I felt none of that fit anymore. Somewhere below, reporters were probably already drafting headlines, lawyers drafting counter-arguments, my mother rehearsing a wounded monologue about betrayal. But up here, in the quiet, I let myself feel something new. Relief that the pretending was finally over. The lights of the skyline flickered like a slow pulse. Tomorrow would bring consequences. Tonight, I would simply be. Morning came with a kind of silence that felt staged, too calm, too careful. The air outside my penthouse windows glowed soft and gold, the city below still half asleep, but my phone was already alive before I even touched it. Messages, dozens of them. My lawyer, my foundation's PR team, even Christine from Meridian Estate. The first email subject line read, "Media Inquiry, Family Allegations." I sighed. It hadn't even taken 12 hours. Scrolling through the feed, I found snippets of a headline already circulating. Nonprofit director exposed as hidden heiress of real estate empire. Family claims retaliation. They'd spun it fast. Too fast. My general counsel, Lauren, called at exactly 8:20 a.m. "You're trending, Latonia," she said dryly. "They're framing it as a morality story. The good sister punished for arrogance. The other sister accused of cruelty." "Let them frame it," I said, sipping coffee. "The truth doesn't need an audience." "Maybe," Lauren said, "but the public always demands one. For what it's worth, our contracts are airtight. The bans stand. Private ownership, private discretion, no legal exposure, just optics." "Optics," I repeated, the word tasting metallic. She hesitated. "Would you like to release a statement?" I looked out the window. The skyline glowed like 1,000 unsaid things. "No. Silence is stronger than defense. People will forget in a week." Lauren chuckled softly. "You always were the long game type." After she hung up, I stood still for a while, the steam from my mug blurring my reflection in the glass. Somewhere far below, I could almost imagine Victoria pacing her apartment, her soon-to-expire apartment, while Mom made calls to anyone who'd listen. And right on cue, my phone buzzed again. A new message. Not from either of them. From Derek. "We need to meet, for Victoria's sake." I didn't answer. Another notification. A voicemail this time, Victoria's voice trembling through the speaker. "Latonia, I know I can't undo what I said, but you need to understand. Mom always compared me to you. Always. I needed to feel like I had something she didn't. I needed to win. But I never did I? You were always the one she really admired. I just couldn't bear it." Her breath hitched, then silence. For a moment, I couldn't move. There was no triumph in hearing her break. Only a quiet sadness that the truth had taken this long to surface. Christine's text arrived minutes later. "Miss Wynn, just wanted you to know the estate's PR office has declined interviews. Also, the gala contract is finalized. Your grandmother confirmed attendance." I smiled faintly. "Thank you, Christine," I typed back, "and thank the staff for their professionalism yesterday. I know it wasn't easy." Her reply came instantly. They were in awe, honestly. None of them had ever seen anyone handle humiliation so gracefully. I closed my eyes. Grace. That word again. It sounded noble, but it came from exhaustion. By noon, the first television pundits were discussing me as if I were a parable. The hidden millionaire who taught her family a lesson. They argued about motives, psychology, power dynamics. None of them mentioned the simplest truth, that I had begged, quietly, for years, to be loved without conditions. I spent the afternoon at the foundation offices, where everything at least made sense. The staff greeted me with their usual warmth, no gossip, no pity, just purpose, funding approvals, grant updates, program meetings, real lives being changed, work that mattered. At 4:17 p.m., Lauren called again. "Just FYI," she said, "we intercepted a cease and desist draft from your mother's firm. It's not an actual filing, just a scare tactic. I can handle it." "Let them send it," I said. "Sometimes people need to feel they're still in control." That night, the city hummed under a thin rain. I stood barefoot on the marble balcony, breathing in the metallic air. Lights smeared across the horizon. Then my phone buzzed once more, a voice memo. Not text this time, Victoria again. "I'm not asking for money," she said quietly, "or access. I just wanted you to know. I told Derek the truth, that I was cruel, that you were kind. He didn't take it well. He said I looked pathetic. Maybe he's right. Maybe I was. But you were right too, about boundaries. I see that now." Her voice cracked at the end. "I hope someday you'll let me prove I can be better." I played the message twice, then once more, slower. Not for forgiveness, just to hear the sound of surrender disguised as honesty. When it ended, I didn't reply. Not yet. Instead, I opened my management console and scrolled through the access control list. Rows of properties, accounts, security tags, all lined up like soldiers awaiting orders. One tab blinked under exemptions. I clicked Add Name. New entry. Latonia Wynn, grandmother. Reason. Family. Scope. Unlimited. No rollback for anyone else. Not Mom, not Victoria. Just one quiet act of grace for the woman who'd believed in me before the world did. I leaned back, watching the city ripple through mist. The story the public would tell tomorrow wouldn't matter. They'd never understand the years that led here, the restraint, the swallowed pride, the slow erosion of hope. They'd only see the ending, a powerful woman reclaiming her narrative. But power, I was learning, wasn't about money or revenge. It was about peace. Christine messaged again that night. Final confirmation. Meridian Estate booked, 600 guests, December 15th. Governor confirmed attendance. Gala theme, restoration. I typed back, perfect. Then I set the phone down, walked to the window, and watched the lights pulse across the skyline. Somewhere out there, my mother was probably drafting another speech. Victoria was probably sitting in the half-packed apartment she'd have to vacate soon. And Grandma, she was probably sipping tea, smiling to herself, proud in a way that felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. The rain traced lines down the glass like punctuation. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. For the first time in years, I felt something settle. Not victory, not revenge, just equilibrium. Tomorrow would bring noise, lawsuits, interviews, whispers. But tonight belonged to stillness. I picked up my pen and signed the digital gala contract with a single stroke. At the bottom, under authorized signature, I wrote my name, Latonia Wynn. No hiding, no pretending. Through the glass, the city glittered below, 12% mine, 100% alive. I watched it all in silence, tea cooling beside me, and whispered to no one in particular. Let them talk.